Welcome back, Benchwarmers. It all comes down to this.
The Fighting Irish versus the Buckeyes. Notre Dame, Ohio State. A year ago, these two teams wouldn't have even had this opportunity as 7 and 8 seeds, but the new 12-team bracket, here we are.
I think I know who Brendan is rooting for in this one. I'm Corey, OHIO.
And I'm Brendan, March on to victory. And this is RV from the Bench. Before we get started, if you're not already, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss any one of the new episodes.
Also, if you could please do us the favor, if you like what you see or hear, please don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash it for us. Come on, it's free. It's free for you. It's free for us. Helps out the channel a lot more than you probably think.
Hell yeah.
Well, Corey, I know we've discussed this a little bit prior, so first things first. Kevin, you did it. You made it. Okay? That's my bad. All right? I talked a bunch of crap. Okay? You probably saw the reel where it was an accident. It was truly an accident where I accidentally put the trash can emoji instead of the Ohio State logo.
Accident. Yeah.
That's my bad. I'm going to own up to it right now. Okay? It's not over yet. You still got to get past Notre Dame, but I think you got a really good shot. So, this is my peace offering for all the crap I've always talked, since Michigan is technically still reigning champs. If they win, I will officially, and Corey will hold me to it, I will stop talking smack about the team to the south for one whole season. All of next year, I will be quiet. I'm not going to sit here and sing their praises, okay? But I will say zero bad things.
So if they're the defending champs, they get a year of nothing from you. And then the next year, right back at it.
Correct. As soon as the next season of, honestly, unless they go back-to-back, which is hard to do in college, but unless they go back-to-back, then I would have to continue it. So, Kevin, This is my olive branch to our rivalry, even though technically I've never met you in person. But yes, so I just wanted to throw that out there before we started this episode.
All right. I think you should double down and say that if they do go back-to-back, that you can't say anything about them for like 5 or 10 years. Really push it on yourself.
Corey, let's take it one thing at a time, okay?
Okay, all right.
Well, we've got here. First year of the 12-team playoff bracket.
You know what, too? It's crazy. Florida State didn't make it again. I don't know what they're going to do.
Dude, they were so close this year, too. I don't know. Maybe they sat out their bowl game in protest.
God, all that crying and bitching last year, and here they are. They're one of the worst teams and not even in the top 12 to have an opportunity. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Good point. I'm going to share my little snippet, and then I want you to just before we get into the actual game, give your take on how this playoff was. Let me give a small bit of mine. I don't like it. Not going to lie. I feel like similar to how baseball got screwed, all the 1 seeds got screwed by having that rest. 1 through 4 all lost. Literally, the final 4 teams were 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, if you want to have it 1 through 8, fine. But some of the teams, I'm talking 9 through 12, that was in the nicest way very pointless for them to even. They got blown out so easily, so fast. Wasn't even anything in my opinion. So I don't say it. I hate it because of what's happening right here with Ohio State. I promise is more just the idea of it being, I feel like we're getting to a place where it's too much. We did need it expanded to besides the first 2.
Yeah.
And maybe even beyond 4. But jumping to 12, I just felt like, geez, could we have maybe stopped at 8?
Yeah, I was going to say we could have gone 4 to 8. And then if 8 after a couple of years was still having issues, then you could jump to 12. But from go to 4 to triple the amount of teams in the is too much. I agree. But the other thing I think about too is you say the teams that rested lost. Don't they normally not play the semifinals, the 2-4 team or whatever, until New Year's Eve and New Year's Day anyway? So that first round that they were off.
Okay, you're right. Yeah,
they probably would have been off anyway. So I don't really think that might be.
But the team they played also would have been off.
That's true. I guess that's a good point.
So to your point, yeah, they would have been rested, so maybe not that, but the team they played would also be just as rested or rusted. So
that's a good point. Yeah, because if you played in the first round, you had the next game is 10 to 15 days later. So it's basically a 2-week bye instead of a 4 to 5 week. So I get that, but I was just thinking you had time off at the same amount, regardless if you were in the top 4 this year or you were in the top 4 or last year. It's the first 4 games or whatever were at the same time. But
no, very true.
It is interesting, like you said, to go from 4 to 12 though. That was the big 4 to 8. Why don't we just double?
Yeah.
And not have a first round bye and just have everybody play from the get go? And like you said, 9 through 12 wouldn't have been an issue this year.
And I truly believe that it would be perfect because if you weren't 1 or 2 or basically undefeated in the SEC or the Big Ten at the end of the year, it didn't matter, right? Yes. So I'm glad that they be on 2, and even 4 was like, I don't know, that 5th team might be good, but 12 is just I feel like it's starting to push it a little bit.
Yeah,
so, but we'll see how it ends up next year. If this holds true and Ohio takes this victory, that is. Basically, if they ever change the playoff format, just bet on Ohio State to win. Because as soon as they went from 2 to 4, the very first year as a 4 seed, Ohio State won the national championship. Now, the first time they're going to 12 as a, what were they?
The 8 seed?
8 seed? They're going to the national championship. And if you think about it, if my idea was, or if what we were thinking from 4 to 8, that would have been the last seed, just like they were the last seed for the 4. But here we are.
Ryan Day saved his life in his job over there because they were wanting him fired because they keep losing to Michigan, but here he is in the national title game. So I don't think he's going to have to worry about that anymore.
Yes. If they lose, he will still be on the hook.
Yeah, if they lose badly, I can see that. But if they lose close, then, I mean, they got time.
No, I'm not saying he's going to be calling for fire. I'm saying the leash isn't as long anymore.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. Yeah. He got the playoff monkey off of his back, kind of, right? He's able to kind of progress two full games into this. But the Michigan ones, if there's anything, ask Kevin. If there's anything that Kevin hates the most, he'd go 1-10 or 11 or whatever. If the 1 is Michigan, to be honest, right? So they're still going to be a little mad, but yeah, a national championship would help a lot.
Yes, I think it would quiet some things.
Okay, well, let's jump into it, man. Notre Dame, Ohio State. This is coming up Monday afternoon, 4:30 Pacific time in Atlanta. It's going to be a good game, man. Marcus Freeman may be the last game he coaches in college. There's a lot of talk of him going to the Bears as kind of the front runner here. So how do you see some of this breaking down? Give me your perspective from, honestly, any of the teams. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'd rather not talk about Ohio State. So.
I'd say I'm going to talk about Ohio State because it's the one I follow the most because I have family now that is involved with Ohio State. I know, Notre Dame with the no conference thing, they play a bunch of smaller schools. Like they did win and get some big, 4 wins against top 25 teams in the regular season, but still, like, I don't know. I feel like no conference and no conference championship game, and some of the teams they play are kind of like the loss that they had was to Northern Illinois in week 2.
No, that was bad.
Yeah, and it was 16-14. It's not like they got beaten a shootout and just happened to lose 63-60. Like they got beat and they got shut down. Although again, early on in the season, them trying to figure things out. But Northern Illinois,
it was early, yeah,
not a team you want to lose to if you're Notre Dame.
At home, it was at home too.
Even worse. So the fact that they're here, they're elated, they're happy. Freeman, as you mentioned, is probably going to be gone here, especially if they win the title. He could be like Harbaugh last year and just out the door to the NFL.
Yeah, good point.
Would be interesting.
It would.
But as far as like what to expect out of this, I feel like it's just going to be a back and forth battle. I can't decide if I feel like they're going to be a back and forth high scoring battle or a back and forth low scoring, and whoever gets like that last turnover or something, kind of like the last Ohio State game with a big turnover that basically sealed the win.
I do think that Texas was more of a defensive team. Notre Dame is kind of going to rely on their defense for this one. They can put up points. They have some playmakers, but it's not, they don't have, that's the hard part about college football is there's not a ton of elite quarterback talent, at least as far as like throwing the ball compared to like accuracy and downfield, a lot of talent from the multi-variation of the running passing combination. There's a lot of college quarterbacks that can run, and both of these quarterbacks can run at least a little bit. I'm not saying they're, Lamar Jackson, but but they can move. So I think it should be pretty good. I'm leaning, if I had to choose one of those options, I'm leaning towards offensive. That's literally what Ohio State is built on. Of course, they can play defense. I think they have one of the top defenses in the nation this year by points allowed, but they are an offensive juggernaut. I mean, look at all the wide receivers that are littered throughout the NFL right now that are out of Ohio State. I get LSU is also wide receiver university. No disrespect to Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, right? But Ohio State's been churning them out. They know how to score points. So if I had to choose one, I'm leaning more towards the offensive side.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even though you look at Notre Dame's bowl game wins so far to get to this point, they didn't score more than 27 in either of those 3 games. But during the regular season, they scored 49 or more 6 times. So There
Okay,
is an
so they
offensive,
can score.
but again, we talked about how there's a non-conference schedule the whole time. So you're playing a little lesser talent. You're not playing Big Ten teams like Ohio State is or Oregon, who they lost to on the road by 1 point with the weird penalty thing that Oregon manipulated the system. But still, like, they can score. So that's why I keep debating in my head: is it going to be a high scoring battle or a low scoring battle, and the defenses show up? I can't really decide how I think this is going to go down.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of their games from this season. They, to your point, aren't that impressive as far as the teams that they've played.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of those teams you mentioned, they beat at home Florida State 52-3. That's one of those 49 plus that you mentioned there. So 52-3. They did have one good win. Obviously, the rivalry win, which I don't, is USC and Notre Dame, or is it USC and UCLA, or do just everybody hate USC? Like, who's the real rival there? I know that they've coined it Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, it's UCLA is because it's the crosstown. It's just because it's,
because it's city.
Geographically built in.
Okay.
In the sense. The Notre Dame is the real one because back in the day when Notre Dame and SC were the good schools and always playing each other in national titles, or not national titles at the time is what they called it, but
true.
Bowl games, it became a regular thing like Lakers Celtics or Ohio State SC for a long time, and the Rose Bowl was that same thing, I think, in like the 60s. It was just
the Rose Bowl,
teams over and over and over, so it became just a rivalry based on that more than anything else.
And you mentioned some of those ranked wins. Well, one ranked win, as much as I'd love to give them credit, and I appreciate the service.
Where you're going.
Well, one was Army, bro. Like, come on. And I forgot where they play. I was about to say the city. It was at Notre Dame. So yeah, it's not looking great. Whereas literally the opposite for Ohio State when they, we're talking about their schedule. Big Ten, depending on who you ask, is arguably, in my opinion, the hardest conference. I think the SEC, now that NIL is legal, because I think that's all they were doing was just NIL illegally back in the day. That's how they get such stacked conference. Yep. I think the Big Ten is basically kind of starting to catch up, if not surpass that SEC. And an entire Big Ten slate means an entire slate of tough teams, especially Oregon twice. One loss, but one huge win in that Rose Bowl game that I turned off almost immediately.
And it's funny because looking at it, we talked about how the Big Ten, it's a harder conference and more competitiveness. If you look at, you mentioned Ohio State's offense is explosive, but they also have games where they didn't score, like 2 games they scored 50 or more, 2 games they scored 40 or more, 5 games they scored 30 or more, 3 games they scored 21 or less. So, and that might not be necessarily a bad thing.
One was Michigan. That's that's what
I'm saying. You're playing higher competition compared to Notre Dame. So Notre Dame might have a lot of games where they scored a lot of points and won big, but their competition level is so much less that Ohio State's closer wins kind of even give you more of a thought like, okay, they've been tested and battled like throughout the season against real competition of similar teams they're going to see during the playoffs, which again, Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas, those are legit teams. And I mean, they took care of business. So it's hard to for me, it's hard to go against Ohio State, but I keep going back and forth as far as how the scoring is going to go in this game. That's like I can't figure out who's going to win, how much they're going to win by, I guess, is my biggest question.
Got you. Well, let's kind of break down some of those ones then that you were talking about. So Indiana, Big Ten team, also that's who Notre Dame knocked off in the first round. Ohio State beat an SEC school in Tennessee. Let's call it even.
Who Tennessee tried to think they were tough and came out with no shirts on in the cold weather and then got beat down.
That was dumb. Bunch of idiots, but whatever. That's on them.
I have mentioned, don't talk shit till the game's over. Don't try to give them any bulletin board material of any kind until the game is over, and then you can show them the newspaper that says we won.
Agree. A 13-point win over Georgia, an SEC school number 2 in the nation, compared to a 20-point win over Oregon.
Georgia didn't have Carson Beck, their backup quarterback. So I take that one a little less than I would have normally if they would have had.
That's the 10 part. I'll give you the 10 part. But the 23, they're still putting up 23 points against a decent SEC defense.
Yep.
Then the last one is the Penn State game, whereas they played Texas, an SEC school, as opposed to a Big Ten school. And besides Michigan, Penn State and Oregon, Penn State gave Ohio State the toughest time this year. So it was one of the closer games that Ohio State won. So it could be like a warm-up for Notre Dame. Again, bro, I'm grasping at straws here. So, I'm not saying any of these are extremely valid cases, but
But your Penn State point is a good one, actually, because we always talked about with Nando doing the fantasy during our Blueprint series. If you guys haven't seen those episodes, go back and check out our Blueprint fantasy football.
Dude, I love that series. It's cool. It was fun.
But Nando didn't. I had a point there. I totally lost where I was going. Dang it.
I'm sorry, bro.
No, it's okay.
But the Blueprint was good. But I was talking about how Ohio State had barely beat Penn State at Penn State.
Okay, that's what it was. So we talked about Nando. We forget certain matchups for fantasy. Our division opponents, they know each other well, play each other twice a year. Penn State and Ohio State, if they didn't even play, even if they didn't play during the regular season this year because of how big the Big 10 is with 18.
The Big 15, 18, 16, whatever.
They still play each other every other year at worst. So it's the same coaching staff that's been there for at least 5 years on both sides. So they know each other. So even though it's Penn State in a bowl game, it's still kind of a conference/division opponent. So I kind of take that as in they know each other very well, and there's not going to be a whole lot of surprises.
Well, I'm hoping that, maybe freaking Notre Dame could have learned something from that game and maybe taken something to heart there. Because, what they really need to do is also Texas kind of had Ohio State in the first half of that game. Yep. Take that same blueprint and try to run with it at least. You know what I mean? So granted, there was a lot of debacles at the end of the game. Texas literally coughed it up, but here we are. So we'll see, dude. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm hoping, like I said, I like the offensive game, or at least close. If it's a defensive, fine, but it's close. Let's go with close.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. So then since we know at least I am assuming you're rooting for Notre Dame.
I know I'm rooting for 100%.
Okay. So then I guess my question is, who are you picking to win and what's the score for this game?
Okay. I just want to start by saying I hate myself for even saying this. Okay. So let me just start there. Truly, I do. I feel like this is the Rose Bowl game all over again. 31-17 dummies. I mean, Ohio State. I got to get more jabs in because I really have a feeling I'm going to have to take a year off. So go ahead.
This might be your last shot, so I get it. Okay, so I'm with you as far as Ohio State winning, but I do have it a little closer. I think that they're going to have a lead. Notre Dame's going to have a chance at the end, but they're going to ultimately fall short. So I think Ohio State's going to get out of there 30-24 and march on Buckeyes to the national championship.
Nice. Okay. Well, not nice, but I think that 17, that last touchdown that Notre Dame gets is like that garbage time touchdown. That's how I felt. I think that's like a 31-10 game, and they just don't care at the end. So, yeah, it's not going to be that fun. I might turn it off depending on how it starts, to be honest with you. I got other things I could do on a Monday.
Yeah, that's true. It is a Monday night. There's no Monday Night Football, so this is our replacement for the week.
Oh, come on, Irish. We'll see. I don't know if I've ever been a Notre Dame fan, especially being a lifelong SC fan. So
yeah, true. Good point.
Hard to do, but hey, if there's one team I don't root for, it's the Buckeyes. So
all good.
Kevin, good luck. Let us know in the comments below if you're sad with me or if you're pulling for those Buckeyes.
And hit us up on Twitter, Instagram at RVUFTB. Let us know if you guys have any ideas of if Ohio State is going to be back next year to win a back-to-back and Brendan will have to really shut up, or is this just a one-time thing? I don't know. I think you should take the chance and go back-to-back and say it now before we even get to it.
No. I don't even want to put that in the atmosphere. Go blue. Well, appreciate everybody for stopping by. Thank you as always for saying things from RV from the bench. I'm Brendan.
I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace. Come on, Irish.
This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.